I must say that when I arrive at Gatwick, it has a feeling of pleasure. It doesn't matter whether you're coming from abroad or coming to go abroad. There's a feeling of colour about it, which I particularly like. And this includes the signing. It seems to me that there's one lot of signing which tells you how to get to where it matters, like the loo and the checkouts, and a completely different one which covers what's known as Gatwick Village, which is the sort of commercial part. What is the difference? What's the philosophy behind that?
Directional signing is the most important. That is standard to all our airports. It is clean, clear, easily read from a distance. It was designed, as you know, by Jock Kinneir some 10 years ago and is as good now as it ever was. We've been at pains recently to separate out all the commercial signing to leave clear views of the actual directional signing. The commercial signing is more transitory. It can change with the changing facilities, with the catering, with the trading, the shopping. This has a fun element about it. It's not essential to a passenger. The directional signing is the backbone of any good airport system.
And presumably there's some pressure to keep that signing jolly and fun and changeable by the people who are selling things upstairs.
This can flex with the whim and the marketing attitudes of the moment. And that's good.
And isn't it confusing for passengers to find that they're getting far too much information being...
No, I think passengers are quite good at separating out what matters to them and what is part of their holiday in some cases.
Primary concern is to cite the signs in relation to the flow of people. The way people approach a building or approach a situation, and what we've always aimed at is a sort of sympathetic cohabitation of sign with the building around it, especially in terms of levels and scale, but primarily to cite it in relationship to the angular view of the mass of people approaching it. The most important thing is that the sign should be seen and noticed. It was decided to make them as bright as possible, therefore to internally illuminate them. And given a yellow background, the best colour to put on it is black. So they were both, from the very start, conspicuous and easily produced. There is one invisible virtue which people never notice, and that is they don't reflect light. If they were on glass or perspex with a shiny surface, there's so much odd specular reflection about, so many other light sources, that you simply wouldn't be able to read them. But one very early decision was to put them onto a matte-surfaced acrylic. And no one notices, quite rightly, that therefore you can read them at any angle. Another little sort of unseen bit of design work.
Unlike architects, I like to view airports in a slightly different way. I don't believe that passengers have time or the training necessarily to understand the glorious symmetry of a building, its disciplined walls, its finishes, its surfaces, its colour coordination. I think they're much more related to their immediate environment, the seating, the trolleys, the desks, the service that they get from the staff, their immediate contact, their friendliness from the information desks. All these aspects, I think, are more important. It's only when they've settled down and can look around and then begin to perceive something different that the other parts become more important.
I want to look at the airport really through the eyes of the passengers, who are normally a bit anxious, and their anxiousness takes the form of a very small little area which is themselves, and all they see or don't see are the signs that tell them where to go next or where to put their baggage or finding where the trolley is because they can't carry their bag another inch. Obviously the passengers aren't the only people in the airport, and you've got also to deal with the staff, but how do you deal with things like seating, for instance, and how do you decide where there should be carpet?
I think it's quite straightforward. The very heavily trafficked areas must have hard floors to be cleaned easily so that they look good at all times, not just the moment the passenger happens to be treading on them, but all the rest of the time. And these standards build upon each other. If you can keep the floor clean, then the furniture looks clean, and so on.
One thing that must be quite complicated, I think, to design are the various forms of seating that are needed in different parts of the airport. How do you know what people really want?
We've looked at this in many ways. I prefer to have a seat which we can perhaps stretch out on if necessary, and to form groups, natural groups, amongst the furniture. And so we developed a very simple seat, which you'll see all over our airports, and had now become standard because it's proven to work well. We find that this seat is easily adaptable to the colour schemes of particular interior designers. Here at Gatwick, we have strong colours which augment the style of the architects. Hard-wearing frames, tough fabrics that can be cleaned easily, reupholstered without effort, so that damage to the seats and the fabrics can be easily rectified by management, so that passengers don't have to sit on anything that isn't of a very high standard.
Coming to the airport this time, I was aware of some new, I think they're called litter ash bins, that really are rather posh and rather good. And as I walked round the corner, I discovered an older bin of an older design that was looking very deformed, and really I suddenly was aware of how good the design of the new bins was. How do you choose a design or invent a design for something as mundane as a litter bin?
Ash litter bins, the ones you're referring to, feature largely in our lives. They're a very essential management tool. This one, designed by David Hodge, replaces the tatty one that you saw around the corner, and is, as you can imagine, a Rolls Royce in comparison. The design development time of that, I think, was about 18 months. And the briefing, very stringent, not only from the security and fire officers' point of view, but from the cleaning and the presence it has to have in the right places in the terminal. It has to relate to the size of the spaces that it sits in. Small ashtrays are difficult to find. I'm quite fond of this one.
We decided the idea was to provide facility for ash and litter at the same level. Hopefully by doing this one would produce correct usage of the bin. Now with the ash and litter at the same level, you do induce correct use, and if you look at the new bins, you don't see them piled up with rubbish, because the litter goes through the flap in the centre, falls into the container, and the ash and cigarettes are placed around the perimeter rim. All you see is the ash and the cigarettes. One produced a design which, with a flap, conceals the litter, but also suffocates itself should there be a fire inside. So at the end of the day, you have a very simple object in appearance, but quite complex in terms of design.